Jamie, thanks for your time for this discussion. We're going to talk about an important subject of reflective practice, and I think it's something that we all should do as proficient and professional trainers and assessors, whether that be in a volunteer sense or whether it be paid staff. It's just an important process that we should be involved with. So, from your experience, what is reflective practice?
Well, as you've just outlined there, Lee, reflective practice is an important part of training. So a lot of people think that it's quite easy to walk into a room and start training people, we assess them, and then that's it, the day is done. But reflective practice is important because it ensures that we've got that continuous improvement process. So one of the big issues that we have is if people have the thought process of, we've always done it this way, so it must be working, then not only does the training become a little bit behind in the times, but learners and learning styles evolve. So if trainers don't keep up with the learners or with the industry needs and different training techniques, then learners aren't getting the value out of the training, and the techniques and the materials that we use become outdated quite quickly.
Absolutely. How long have you been teaching?
Quite a number of years.
Yeah, a number of years, yeah. So in the 17 years that I've been involved with adult education, and there's heaps more that have been there much longer than I have, but just in that short time, I look at it and I think there's been so much evolution about how we train and how we teach. And once upon a time we had the desks all lined up across the room and you were down the front as the centre of attention, whereas today, if we can engage a group where it's more like facilitated discussion and you're still running the gathering, then that's much more the ideally suited circumstance in which we engage when it comes to training today. So it's a big step away from when I first started to where we are today. So it's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about the different ways that training has evolved over the years. From my experience as well, I remember back in school when mobile phones were first introduced and they were the banned item. Nowadays everyone needs to have an iPad, everyone needs to have a laptop, because that's the way that learning is done.
It's an excellent
But
point.
you certainly need to have different blends.
Yep.
And reflective practice comes into place where we can have a look at the way that a session's been delivered. Did it work? Didn't it work? Is there another way that we can deliver the information?
Yep.
And it's really important that trainers have the focus of, it's not about them, it's about the learner and what works for the learner, because at the end of the day, that's what we're there for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think something that's really important for trainers to be aware of is self-awareness. So I've had the experience myself where a trainer, a person standing at the front of the room, will just deliver one-way information. So they'll just stand there and they'll give a lecture, and as a learner, I'll have a look around the room at the other learners with me, and you'll have people who are disengaged, who are switched off, who are doing other things, and they're not paying attention to the trainer because all they're doing is just one-way information and not getting people involved. Reflective practice and being self-aware, the trainer should be able to look around the room and go, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Let's try something different.
Yep. Let's say we're running a training event at Maitland, perhaps we've never been there before. You might make a note with regards to your reflection at the end of the day and say to yourself, well, I couldn't access the training room. And I always make it a habit of getting in there the night before, taking a look at the training room, seeing it up how I want it, making sure the whiteboard markers work, all of that sort of stuff. I'll be completely prepared before the individual walks in the door, mainly because you want to respect the time that the individual volunteer is providing you when they walk in the door. Yep. We might look at some of those scenarios that we've implemented that have been successful, and you might have seen someone else train a week later and think, oh, I've never thought of that, I'll add that. So that's reflective practice, isn't it? There's things like assessment. Was the assessment process successful? Does it need to be changed? Does it need to be amended? If we're dealing with TRKs, then of course we want to reference that back through the validation committees within the broader SES group, so that that feedback can be considered in due course. Things like the evaluation form.
Notice some trends throughout your sessions as well. You might notice that the same comments keep popping up and it might be the important points of people aren't engaged or the activities weren't suited to them.
Yep.
So certainly the feedback forms are a very important tool.
Yeah, they are. They are. Often people want more practical, hands-on. So, I know with your training, it's very much hands-on. I've seen the graphic nature of what you do, and it doesn't really appeal to me, but it works for you, so that's fantastic. What about in relation to, so at the moment we have 75 trainers and assessors right across the state. Many of those would be isolated individuals working in geographical locations that are isolated. Should we undertake reflective practice just as an individual? Sometimes it can be, a courageous step to do, but should we also step out and have a trusted network that we can rely upon to provide us feedback or answer some of the questions that we may have?
I think the network is absolutely vital. So if we can have a look at the way that other people train or the new techniques that they're introducing, then people can become inspired to keep updating their own techniques and moving forward. So everyone's got their own different style of training and the way that they deliver, but if they see other people and think, oh, well, that works, I'm going to incorporate that in my own training, then we can all evolve as a training team.
In the SES, how can individuals engage with such networks? Like you have a network with regards to first aid that you facilitate. Perhaps explain that to us.
Well, at the state level, so we have training reference groups and capability reference groups where we get a group of people who may either have a managerial position, so they have influence over the way that training is delivered or what techniques we'll have. Then we certainly have our subject matter experts who have a direct influence with what's included and what isn't. So that's an easy way to form a network there.
Yep.
At the unit level, it could be a case of trainers within the unit or with neighbouring units coming together and discussing the way that they deliver training. And it's good to get different perspectives. So if you've got a unit in the metropolitan area and another unit out in the country, regional areas, they may have different ways to train, they may have different resources, or they just may not have experienced the way that other people deliver training. Yep. So if they can come together, share their ideas, look over the material, bring in some improvements, then that's an easy network there.
Yep. And there's nothing from stopping individuals from suggesting to themselves that, hey, I can create my own informal networks. If you feel the need where you just want to create your own little network of trusted people that you can trust, whether they be in the SES or they might be trainers in, you have a little bit, or you have a considerable amount to do with St. John's and other individuals. So you'd have a network of people that you would trust as individuals, that you know that if you took a question to them, there's no power scenario happening, it's actually a conversation of professional discussion.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And you're right, you can go across different organisations as well to get a different perspective, which obviously helps in that regard. There's other networks as well, so we've got the Vocational Education Learning Group, or VELG,
Yes.
where you've got a lot of resources there. We certainly have other avenues available with technology, so using Big Blue Button.
Yep.
And using that to network with other people as well.
Yeah.
So certainly getting engaged in industry, and not just within the SES, can certainly help to broaden the perspective of reflective practice.
Yeah. And importantly, I think when it comes to reflective practice is when you undertake the process, it's important to jot down the findings. It might be rough notes that you just keep in your bottom drawer. But write down the notes, the date you had a discussion, say, with Jamie, and we spoke about RPL and how to undertake recognition for prior learning and the evidence that might be required. And we discussed this and we discussed that. Or how do we facilitate and minimise bullying in a classroom setting, that sort of generic stuff that I've got no idea about first aid, but we share that in common. So I would document that. I spoke with Jamie. These are the points that may be of use to me into the future, and then that pops in my bottom drawer. And next time I'm encountering an issue like that, I can recall those notes, and I think that's useful. An old manager taught me to do that, and I've always done that since, and it's a benefit at times.
Yeah, it certainly is. And a lot of trainers will see reflective practice as being a bit of a a fluffy process where we're just ticking a box, but it's not. It's for the development of the trainer. And don't need to keep a detailed diary, but
No.
certainly keeping those dot points in hand will make sure that over time we can see that we are improving as trainers. And
Yep.
again, at the end of the day, we're there for the learner, so
Yeah.
we need to make sure that we're top of our game in order to make sure that we're giving the best product to our learners.
Yeah, fantastic. Some really strong points, and worth consideration moving forward. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Lou.